guys, this is Amadea. I'm back and I'm so excited. I'm so awkward also. Hey beautiful friends, I'm back. This is Amadea and I am so excited because today we're gonna go through a beginner tutorial for digital art and we're gonna draw this beautiful girl based on a Draw This in Your style that I really loved. And we're gonna go through sketching, we're gonna go through which brushes I use, we're gonna touch base on shading and how to use layer modes. I'm honestly gonna share every little trick and tip that I can think of throughout my whole drawing process. Let's get started! Hey, so once you grabbed your reference photo from Instagram or you can take a screenshot, you're gonna lower your brush opacity on the left and increase your brush size to a little bigger. You're gonna use the dry ink from the inking section. That is my favorite from sketching. You'll see it's so soft and it's very pencil-like feel. So to do the face, you're just gonna draw a circle and then a little jawline underneath and the line in the middle to indicate which direction the face is looking at. And then we're gonna draw in the direction lines on where the features are located. So the middle between the jaw and the top of the head is the eyes. And so you're just gonna draw the little eye sockets. Then the halfway between the eyes and the jaw will be the nose, and 1/3 below the nose to the chin is the mouth. Then between the midline of the eyes and the top of the head is where the hair starts, and then in between those two is where I usually put the eyebrows. So you see my little outline here. For the ear, you just want to make sure that it goes from the eye to the nose. It's sometimes hard to put the ears to the right place, but this is the one thing you should remember, that it should be going from the eyes to the nose, and then it will be generally always placed right. So for the hair, I'm trying to go for some flowy lines. I am thinking of more of an area like bang for her on top of her face. I just love when hair has more volume, but I also am only trying to pay attention to the shape of the hair right now because we're not on the stage yet where it really matters where I put the lines. I can refine those later. So I'm more trying to think through what's the difference of space on the reference between the jaw and the shoulder, and so that's how I kind of decide what the length of the neck should be. I really try to observe that the neck is about the length of how much the distance is from her shoulder to where the neck, and the jaw cross is the same distance from where her ear starts, the ear line on the top. So I'm just kind of refining these lines a little bit. So if you saw that I do these little circles in certain places, I try to put circles to the chest and to the shoulder because it's gonna help me place them to the right place. So if I just observe the distance from the eye to the shoulder to the chest, you can see it's about the same distance. So by putting those little circles there, it helps me visualize where to put the outlines so that it matches my reference. And so you can use this technique to sketch out the entire body. Just pick one reference point that you already drew. I usually try to pick the eyes because the eyes are the most important part of the drawing. That's where your attention is grabbed first. So once you place the eyes right, which is in the middle of the head from the top of the head to the jaw, then after that you can try to look at the distance on the reference to place out every other feature. And so with practice you will not have to place as many circles and not have to spend as much time on it, but I am still learning. So as you can see, I am trying to match up the reference on top of my drawing with just grabbing it with the select tool on the top left corner and then positioning it right on top. And I actually noticed that her chest is way too high, so after this I'm gonna go back and refine the chest so that it brings it down a little lower. So I'm fairly happy with how the body looks now, so we're gonna jump to the eyes, and it's very important with the eyes that the way you put the circles is what's gonna be the length of your eyes. So you're gonna have the left corner of the eye at the left side of the circle and the right corner of the eye at the right. Except for the right eye right now it's in perspective, so it's gonna be a little smaller than the other eye. For the nose, you're just gonna draw a little triangle for now that we're gonna refine later. So just draw a triangle. For the eye, for the mouth, just put a little dot in about the middle of where the eye will be. And then after that, you can further refine the jaw based on your sketch. Alright, so the other eye is you wanna make sure that you do a triangle kind of shape on the top, so the top part of its three lines connecting each other, creating almost like a triangle shape, but they're three straight lines on the top of the eyes, so don't be afraid to use angles. And then also what is something that really helped me placing the pupils is that you want to make sure there is the same amount of white space showing from the black to the side of the eye. So if you look in the reference, her little black circle in her eyes covering more than 70% of her eye, so you're gonna try to do the same thing on the eye that's in perspective, is that 70% of the white will be dark. Okay, so you might have saw me creating a new layer. It was very quick, but I created a new layer and then I made my brush a little thicker and then also turned up the opacity to full for the clean line art. And this is where it gets tricky because, as you can see, I'm drawing 10 billion lines till I get it right. I'm trying to do both angles and curves. It's very important to use both because if you only do curves for the eye, it's gonna look very fake in my opinion. The angles really help bring that realistic feel and something interesting. So see, I'm really happy with the shape of that line, but I want to move it around a little, so I select it, and then on the bottom I'm gonna pick distort so I can pull it down a little bit, and then I'm gonna click freeform so I can smush it into a smaller shape, and so the eyelash is not as crazy huge on the side. And then after that I'm just refining the shape of the line. I'm gonna pick a hard brush as an eraser from the airbrushing section, and then you can erase or you can pick your pencil and make the line more wide. It's up to you. And then after that I'm just gonna create the eye pupil. Try to make it so that if the whole eye was white, 70% of the eye is covered in black. So that is kind of the tip that I was suggesting that helped me a lot making the eyes look realistic, is that you make sure that the black area on the white is the same percentage on both eye, and then also that the black part is obviously on the same side. So if it's on the left side for both eye, that you're gonna keep that. For the top line, just try to make sure that you only do one thick line and maybe a couple more eyelashes, but definitely don't try to draw out every single eyelash by itself. It's gonna look a lot cleaner and prettier if you just try to do thick lines to draw the attention to the eyes. For the bottom eyelash, try to do an angle line that has two sides. So the top line of the eye would have three angles, so two angles in the middle and three lines, and the bottom has just two sides. And you can see how when I select the selection tool, now I'm selecting the whole eye and smushing it a little, so you see the eye The left eye is in between, just in the middle between the side of the face and the ears, so that's where I usually like to place my eyes. For the nose, I just outlined the 2 dots for the nostrils in a little line, and then I drew one smaller line in the top of the nose, so it's the same shape as the triangle underneath, but only draw in those 3 little lines for it. And right now I'm replacing the nose because the nose should be the width of the 2 eyes. So in the space between the 2 eyes should be the width of the nose, if that makes sense. But in terms of getting the shape of the nose from side view right, it's definitely a challenge. So as you saw, I struggled with it a bunch too, but now I like it. And I just turned off the sketch layer to make sure that my outline looks good. For the mouth, after you drew your 2 little dots in the middle of the eyes, so that's where you want to place your dots, is the middle of each eye, then you're gonna check where your nostrils are and draw 2 little lines coming out of the nostrils to just help yourself kind of place the little triangle shape on the top of the mouth. And then feel free to select your little line and move it around so that it feels right. I just moved up the corner a little bit so it appears she's smiling a little bit more. And then when you connect the lines of the top lip, don't connect it all the way to the line, just make it a little shorter, so it's just the effect of the top lip but not the full shape. You're gonna create those full shape when we get to coloring in part 2. So for the ear, I am trying to mimic the shape of the ear on the drawing, which is more oval. And also what I just showed you is how the ear is about the same size as the eye, a little bigger, but that just helps you eyeball observing it on the reference what the size of the ear is to something else that you already placed in the drawing, like for the eye, this example. For the ear, don't worry about it too much. It's really just memorizing where you put those 3 lines. You can observe the way I did it and then you'll be good. Now for the eyebrows, try to make sure that the 1/3 from the outside of the eye to the nose, so see if you divide it in 3, then it's gonna arch at 1/3, and then 2/3 of the eyebrows will be just a straight line. And then when you fill in the eyebrows, make sure that the direction of the hair is going from inside to the outside and a little up in the middle. And then don't be afraid to draw a couple loose ends of hair, so that's gonna make the eyebrow look more natural. Now you're just gonna finish up the outline of the face and fill in the other eyebrow. You can observe how I go with the direction of the lines in the eyebrow. And then the couple loose strands that I draw. This actually took a lot of practice too. First I was like, I cannot get these loose strings right, but then I practiced and practiced, and I think they look decent now. For the hair, I was mentioning earlier, I wanted to do a bang that kind of resembled Ariel. And then also when you draw hair, it's really pretty if you just try to draw a couple loose strands in the face. So I was experimenting with that for a little bit, but I decided against it. And then really just try to draw flowy lines as much as possible. So make sure your hand is loose and warm, but at this point in the process it definitely should be. And don't be afraid to undo. You see I have my left hand on the screen at all times, so I can just double tap and undo if I don't like where I place one string. So this is another tip that really is important, is that when you do the outline of your character, you definitely want to make sure your brushes are thicker. So I turn the thickness up a little bit so that the outside line makes the character outline thicker, and that helps the character pop. And what sometimes happens to me is I forget to lower the brush size back to thin, and then even the lines that are in the middle of the hair are thick, which is not good. So just make sure that your outside lines are thick and then the mid lines are thinner. Or if there is a string of hair that you want to bring to the foreground or want to put in focus, then you can also thicken that line. And then there is also one more kind of rule with how to draw the pretty outlines that I'm trying to achieve right now, is you can pay attention to where there are crosses of two lines, and then make sure that area is thick so that your eyes can observe very well which line is in the foreground and which line is in the background. So playing around with the thickness of the line is very important, and it definitely needs some practice. So right now I just draw a couple loose strands of hair, and there is something that I really loved from my favorite artist, Dtiys Lopez. She's always drawing these loose strings kind of crossing each other the way I did on the left. Oops, my husband was calling me, but I exited it out because I didn't want the camera to record it, but I actually called him back afterwards, and the camera was recording us talking, and I thought it would be funny to leave it in here. So I'm gonna speed the rest of the line art up here, because all I'm doing is outlining the body, and then you guys can hear afterwards. I'm gonna include that conversation. It's really funny. So before we jump into that funny conversation with my husband, right now I am trying to get the arm and the chest outline right, and I already played around quite a bit with the sketch, just placing those lines to the right spot, but I'm continuing that with just outlining the line and trying to distort it so it looks realistic as far as how anatomy should look like. As you can see, I'm just outlining and moving around, so don't be afraid to use the selection tool for that. It's actually super awesome. And then I continue also to outline the thickness of the outside lines so that the character pops more. I try to get the curve right for the back of the dress so that it also looks realistic. And for all of these, it's very helpful to observe your reference, and especially the white space, so not the character where it's filled in with color, but more the outline of the background. It's gonna help you out so much because your eye is used to looking at things a certain way, and your brain memorized on how that shape should look like. So when you're objectively just looking at the white space next to your character, it helps a lot. This lady from church has triplets, so we were helping with the triplets. It was so weird. We all felt like we are in This Is Us.
We are in This Is Us.
I know.
Hey, I really gotta go though. Let me call you back in like 5 minutes after I get the GPS and stuff going.
Well, we can just talk when you're home.
Okay.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.
So that was the conversation we had. I don't know if you guys watch This Is Us, but it's a show on Hulu, and that's what we are referencing. It's really fun, and I actually just finished the very last episode last night, so I'm really sad right now because I have to find a new show or movie or something. This one was really relatable and funny and just emotional, so I'm gonna miss it a lot, but hopefully a new season comes out soon. As far as the drawing, we could get back to what I'm doing right now, but I really am just trying to make sure that the line art looks great as far as where I put the line weights. So you see where naturally the face is darker, so the middle of the lips, the outside of certain lines I want to highlight, or the nostrils I just try to make thicker, and then I draw these little lines in the middle of the hair to show direction of where the hair is flowing. This will be really cool when we get to the coloring and the shading part, just to show you guys how naturally you want to shade the hair. So make sure that you check out part 2 for that video, because we are gonna finish this full painting together. This is just the sketching part, and I'm hoping that it's really helpful, because I know that a lot of times these digital painting tutorial doesn't really show you how the sketch actually was being done. Some artists are just like, oh, here is a little sketch I prepared in advance, and then you're like, what is happening right now? How did this even happen? I cannot draw like this, so how am I gonna recreate what you're doing? So if you're watching my videos, I'm always gonna show you start to finish what I'm doing, is if it's a full tutorial, so that you don't feel left out and you can really master and practice and get some tips from me and see if you observe what kind of lines I'm drawing on the top of the hair. Not all the lines I'm doing are straight curves. I'm really trying to include those angles that I was talking about earlier, and just cleaning up lines that I don't think that belong somewhere. And this one hair string in the front of the face I really struggle with. And don't be, like, feel okay about struggling with certain lines. It is time and practice to get all of these things right. And honestly, what helped me the most in being where I am today is that I did a 40-day challenge. I actually just challenged myself, but for 40 days I picked an artwork from my favorite artist. It's Lila Lopez. I really love her work, so I picked one from her every single day, and I just tried to sketch and observe her line work every day for a different painting, but I never colored them. I just tried to get the gist of how she constructs her figures, because she mostly focuses on female characters as well, and I really enjoy drawing female characters. I feel like many of us are in these shoes, and that is how I learned. I just did that every day. It took me anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half to finish a complete sketch, but I never gave up, and I just kept practicing, and it actually really paid off. If you go on my Instagram, you can actually see these sketches that I did for 40 days. Only 21 of them are posted on my feed, because I did a sketching challenge with my followers where they were sketching with me for 21 days of the 40. But if you want to see all of the sketches for that challenge, you can see them in my highlights. And I actually really loved it. So I am launching a new challenge in 5 days on June 15th, and that challenge is going to be about drawing a flower each day, because I really want to master drawing flowers the same way that I kind of learned a lot more about how to do pretty line art by doing this challenge. So I would love for you to join us for drawing flowers, as we're gonna finish up this sketch as well, drawing a couple flowers in her hair, and you can just reference the shapes that I use, or draw your own flowers, or practice with us in the challenge and then draw the flowers that you learn in there. But so this was part 1 of a 3-part tutorial that I prepared for you guys, and the second one will be really exciting. It's gonna be everything about flat colors, what brushes to use, what layers to use, and then the third part will be everything about highlights and shadows, and what my methods are, and my actual process that we're gonna do real time, so we can finish up this beautiful piece. And I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Make sure to subscribe and like if you did so, and let me know in the comments if you're joining our flower challenge. And for sure, I'll see you in my next video. Love you guys. Have an amazing day. Bye.